Dude, have you ever really heard the raw story of Musa? I'm not talking about the bedtime version you might have heard as a kid. I mean the unfiltered, no fluff, Battle of Souls version. This is one of the wildest, most intense showdowns in human history, and it's not just about a prophet and a king. It's about power versus truth, ego versus courage, and what happens when the immovable object meets the unstoppable force. Picture this, the most powerful man on the planet, worshipped as a god, with armies, gold, and absolute control over millions of lives, going head to head with a man who's got nothing but a stick, a message, and unshakable faith. That's not just a history lesson, that's a blueprint for every fight you'll ever face in life. Because here's the thing, the Pharaoh Musa story isn't locked away in some ancient scroll. It's happening right now, in boardrooms, in politics, in the algorithms on your phone, even in your own head. Pharaoh is that voice or system that says, stay in your place. Don't even think about breaking free. Musa is that part of you that refuses to bow down, that believes there's a bigger truth worth fighting for. This isn't just about them, it's about you. And by the time you hear the whole thing, you'll know exactly who your Pharaoh is and how to take your first step toward your own Red Sea moment. Ancient Egypt wasn't just a civilization, it was the civilization. Monuments that scraped the sky, gold flowing like water, armies that could crush anyone who dared to stand in their way. At the center of it all sat Pharaoh, not just a ruler, but a man who literally claimed to be a god on earth. His word wasn't law, it was divine command. People didn't just obey him, they worshipped him. But power, that absolute comes with one big problem, paranoia. And then came the prophecy. Whispers started spreading. A boy would be born among the Israelites, the enslaved people of Egypt, and one day he would rise up and challenge Pharaoh's throne. For a man drunk on power, that wasn't just a threat, that was war. So Pharaoh did what tyrants always do when they're afraid. He tried to kill the future before it could begin. An order went out. Every newborn Israelite boy was to be killed. Not some, not most, all. An entire generation of sons wiped out, just to make sure one prophecy never came true. It's dark, it's brutal, but it's also familiar. Because the pharaohs of today might not wear crowns or build pyramids, but they work the same way. They hoard power, crush opposition, and use fear to control. They silence voices before they can speak, shut down movements before they can rise, and keep entire systems chained just to protect their ego. Ancient Egypt might be gone, but Pharaoh's playbook is still being used, just in sharper suits and bigger offices. And here's where the story takes its first wild twist. In the middle of Pharaoh's campaign to wipe out every Israelite baby boy, a mother gives birth to a son. She knows the soldiers are out there hunting. She knows keeping him hidden forever is impossible. So, with nothing left but faith, she places her baby in a basket, sets it afloat on the Nile, and lets the current decide his fate. That river could have carried him anywhere, into danger, into death, but instead, it takes him straight into the hands of Pharaoh's own household. Of all people, it's Pharaoh's wife, Asiya, who finds the crying baby, and something in her heart flips. She refuses to let him be harmed, convincing Pharaoh to spare the child. The very man trying to kill him ends up raising him under his own roof. So Musa grows up in the palace. The best food, the best education, elite combat training, access to the most powerful circles in the world. He's groomed as part of the system, but deep inside, his heart beats with the people outside those palace walls, the ones who are still breaking their backs in slavery. It's like being raised by the mafia boss who doesn't know you're the one destined to take him down. Musa's living in the lap of luxury, learning the ways of the empire, and at the same time unknowingly preparing to dismantle it from the inside. This isn't luck. This is a divine setup. The stage is being set for one of the most epic confrontations in human history. One day, Musa walks out and sees it. An Egyptian overseer beating an Israelite slave. It's not just discipline, it's cruelty. Musa's whole life, he's watched injustice from a distance, but now it's right in front of him. In a flash of anger and a surge of justice, he steps in. A struggle breaks out, and before he realizes it, the Egyptian is dead. This isn't a cold, calculated hit, it's the heat of the moment. But in Pharaoh's Egypt, killing an Egyptian, especially as someone with Israelite blood, is a death sentence. Word spreads fast, and suddenly Musa's no longer the golden boy of the palace. He's the most wanted man in the empire. He runs. Days turn into weeks as he pushes through desert after desert until he finds himself in Midian, far from Egypt's reach, far from the life he knew. There, he starts over. He marries, settles down, and takes the humblest of jobs, shepherd. From palace halls to dusty hills, Musa's life seems like it's fallen apart. But exile isn't just punishment, it's preparation. The solitude of the desert becomes a forge, shaping him in ways the palace never could. Out there, he learns patience, resilience, and the quiet strength that comes from guiding living things with care. Sometimes the path to your purpose runs straight through obscurity. Musa thought he'd lost everything, but in reality, he was in training for the biggest mission of his life, a mission that would shake the foundations of empires. Years pass. Musa's life is quiet now, just him, his flock, and the endless desert. But one day, something catches his eye. Up ahead, a bush is on fire, but it's not burning away. The flames dance, but the branches remain whole. Curiosity pulls him closer, and then a voice, not just any voice, the voice of God. Musa, I am your Lord. Take off your sandals. You are standing on sacred ground. In that moment, everything changes. God tells Musa he's heard the cries of his people in Egypt. The time has come for their liberation, and Musa is the one who's going to deliver the message. Go to Pharaoh. Tell him to let my people go. And here's the thing. Musa's not jumping up and down saying, let's go. He's terrified. He knows Pharaoh. He knows the danger. And he's not confident in himself. He even says, my speech is not clear. I'm not the guy for this. But God's response is simple. I am with you. Musa still asks for his brother Harun to be sent with him. Someone to speak on his behalf, someone to stand beside him. God agrees. That's the lesson right there. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and moving forward anyway. Real strength isn't in having all the skills or the perfect confidence. It's in trusting the one who called you in the first place. Musa left that mountain not as a shepherd, but as a man on a mission, heading straight back to the place he'd fled, ready to walk into the lion's den with nothing but his staff, his faith, and his brother at his side. The palace of Pharaoh wasn't just a building. It was a fortress of intimidation. Towering columns, gold everywhere, soldiers lined like statues, and the man himself seated high above, radiating authority. Walking into that place was like stepping into the very heart of power. And that's exactly where Musa and Harun went. They stand before Pharaoh and deliver the message straight. Let my people go. No begging, no flattery, just truth, plain and direct. Pharaoh laughs. Who is this Lord of the worlds you speak of? I am your Lord. I raised you in this palace. And now you come here making demands? The court chuckles. In his mind, Musa is just a runaway servant daring to challenge the throne. But then Musa drops the sign. He throws down his staff, and it turns into a living, writhing serpent. The place erupts. Pharaoh, refusing to lose face, calls in his magicians. They throw down their ropes and staffs, and by sleight of hand, they appear as snakes too. And then it happens. Musa's serpent swallows theirs whole. The illusionists freeze. They know what they've just seen isn't a trick. They fall in prostration right there in Pharaoh's court, declaring belief in the God of Musa. That's the power of truth. It doesn't need permission, doesn't need a majority vote. It can walk into the highest halls of power and shake them to their core. Pharaoh's ego is now on notice. The challenge has begun, and the cracks in his empire are starting to show. Then the warnings start. Not subtle, not symbolic, but earth-shaking. The Nile turns to blood, its life-giving waters now reeking in red. Frogs pour into every home, every bed, every pot. Lice swarm the land, tormenting rich and poor alike. Then come the flies, blackening the skies, followed by disease wiping out livestock. Boils break out on skin, a pain no medicine can touch. But it's not over. Hail falls from the heavens, shattering crops, followed by locusts sweeping in like an army, devouring whatever's left, and then darkness. Thick, suffocating, 3 days straight, as if the sun itself had abandoned Egypt. Each time Pharaoh calls Musa, pray to your Lord to remove this, and I will let your people go. And each time, as soon as the suffering lifts, he hardens again. This is the danger of ego. It can stare straight at undeniable reality and still pretend it's in control. The plagues weren't random punishments. They were mercy in disguise, chances to change course. But Pharaoh's heart was locked in a cell of pride. And when pride rules, even the clear signs become just noise in the background, until it's too late. The night finally comes. The Israelites leave Egypt under the cover of darkness. Freedom is within reach. But soon, they find themselves trapped. The roaring Red Sea in front of them, Pharaoh's army thundering behind. Chariots, spears, the pounding of hooves, the sound of death closing in. Panic sweeps through the people. We're finished. We should have stayed in Egypt. Fear turns their voices sharp, but Musa doesn't flinch. He stands tall and says, "My Lord is with me. He will guide me." And then the command comes, "Strike the sea with your staff." Picture this: a man walking up to a raging ocean with nothing but a stick. But the moment the staff touches the water, the impossible happens. The sea tears open, walls of water rising on both sides, the seabed dry underfoot. The Israelites move forward, step after step between towering walls of water. Behind them, Pharaoh's army charges in, but once the last Israelite is across, the command comes again. The waters crash back into place, swallowing the might of Egypt in a single deafening moment. That's the lesson. Faith isn't waiting for the sea to part before you move. Real faith is stepping forward when all you see is water, trusting that the way will open when you need it most. Sometimes the path to freedom looks like a dead end, until you take that first step. Freedom from chains is one thing. Freedom from the mindset of slavery is another. The Israelites are no longer under Pharaoh's whip, but the habits of oppression are still in their bones. In the wilderness, the complaints start rolling in. We're thirsty. We're hungry. At least in Egypt, we had pots of meat. The irony? They're free. But nostalgia for slavery creeps in just because the road is hard. God answers their needs in ways no one could imagine. Water gushes from a rock when Musa strikes it. And food? Every morning, manna, a sweet, nourishing, bread-like substance, appears on the ground. In the evenings, quail fly in, ready to eat. Daily, direct provision from heaven. And yet, the grumbling doesn't stop. Where's the garlic, the onions, the spices? This is where I can hear Joe Rogan chuckling. Dude, they're getting literal divine Uber Eats, no delivery fee, straight from the source, and they're still leaving bad Yelp reviews. It's a reminder. Leaving a bad situation is only the first step. The real work is changing what's inside, shifting from dependence on a master to dependence on God. Because if your mind stays in Egypt, it doesn't matter how far your feet have walked. Musa climbs Mount Sinai to receive God's commandments, 40 days in the presence of the divine. Down below, impatience festers. Some start whispering, "Where's Musa? Maybe he's not coming back." Then a man named Samiri offers a solution. He molds a golden calf, claiming, "This is your God." And just like that, after all the miracles they've seen, the plagues, the sea parting, water from rock, many fall into idol worship. They sing and dance around the calf as if Egypt's false gods had never been left behind. When Musa returns and sees it, the fury is instant. He throws down the stone tablets, shattering them. It's not just anger, it's heartbreak. He grabs his brother Harun, demanding how this could happen under his watch. The scene is raw, human, messy. The lesson here cuts deep. Witnessing miracles doesn't guarantee loyalty or change. The heart can see wonders and still wander. Real transformation isn't about the spectacular moments. It's about discipline, remembrance, and choosing the truth daily, especially when it's less exciting than the glitter of a golden calf. Because the real battle isn't between Musa and Pharaoh anymore. It's between each person and their own weakness. And that's a fight no miracle can win for you. After years in the wilderness, the Israelites finally stand at the border of the Promised Land, the place God had sworn to give them. Scouts are sent ahead, returning with clusters of grapes so large they have to be carried on poles. The land is everything they hoped for, but the report comes with a chilling warning. The people there are giants. Their cities have walls that reach the sky. Fear spreads instantly. Murmurs turn into panic. "We can't win. We'll be crushed. Let's go back to Egypt." Only two men, Joshua and Caleb, push back, urging the people to trust God and move forward, but the crowd refuses. That moment of fear cost them dearly. God declares that this generation, the one that saw the miracles, crossed the Red Sea, ate manna from heaven, will never enter the land. Instead, they will wander the wilderness for 40 years until a new generation rises. It's one of the harshest truths in the story. Sometimes you can be standing at the edge of your destiny and still miss it because of fear. The giants in front of you are never bigger than the disbelief inside you, but if you let fear win, you'll walk in circles for the rest of your life. After 4 decades of leading a stubborn, often ungrateful people through deserts, battles, and tests, Musa reaches the mountain that overlooks the Promised Land. From the peak, he sees it, the valleys, the rivers, the fertile ground. It's everything he's worked toward. But God tells him plainly, he will not enter. His mission ends here. Another will lead the people in. It's not a punishment without cause, but it's also not the ending most leaders would want. Musa doesn't argue, doesn't cling to power, he accepts it. Because for him, the mission was never about personal gain, it was about delivering a people from chains and teaching them how to live free. He dies there, on the mountain, his legacy written not in the land he owned, but in the lives he freed and the truth he carried against the mightiest empire of his time. That's a leadership lesson most of the world still doesn't get. The greatest leaders aren't the ones who get the crown or the credit. They're the ones who finish their mission, even if someone else gets to enjoy the reward. Musa didn't enter the land, but he made sure his people could. And that's the kind of legacy that never fades. The story of Musa and Pharaoh isn't locked in ancient history. It's still playing out right now, just with different costumes. Today's pharaohs aren't wearing crowns and sitting on golden thrones. They're running corporations, governments, media empires. They build systems that keep people distracted, dependent, and afraid. The tools are different, but the game is the same. Power-feeding ego, ego-crushing truth. And the golden calf? It's not a statue in the desert anymore. It's glowing in your pocket, on your desk, in your living room. Endless scrolling, celebrity worship, fake gurus, and digital idols demanding your time, attention, and loyalty. People will worship anything that promises comfort, entertainment, or validation, even if it's hollow. The blueprint Musa lived by still works today. Stand up to the pharaohs of your life, even when they seem untouchable. Don't get hypnotized by golden calves, no matter how shiny or popular they look. And keep moving toward freedom, not just physical, but mental and spiritual freedom, even when the journey feels like a desert. Because the real test hasn't changed. Will you bow to what's easy or stand for what's true? The Musa mindset is simple but rare. Trust the mission, confront the lie, and never let fear dictate your future. That's how you break the chains in any era. The story of Musa isn't about a man who had zero fear. It's about a man who moved forward despite it. Standing before Pharaoh, facing a sea with no escape route, walking into a land full of giants, fear was there every time. But faith isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act anyway. Leadership in Musa's story isn't about being the loudest voice or the most charismatic figure. It's about showing up, again and again, even when the people you're leading doubt you, criticize you, or flat out rebel. Real leadership is consistency under pressure. And freedom? It's not just breaking out of physical chains. The Israelites were freed from Egypt in a single night, but it took 40 years to break Egypt out of them. The habits of fear, dependency, and rebellion stayed long after the shackles were gone. That's the part most people miss. Real freedom is an inside job. You can change your environment, your job, your relationship, but if you don't change your mindset, you're still a prisoner. Musa's story is a call to stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start breaking the inner chains now, because until you do, you'll never truly step into the life you're meant for. Everyone's got a pharaoh. That thing in your life that thinks it owns you. Fear, addiction, debt, a toxic boss, a system that says stay in your place, and everyone's got a Red Sea, that wall in front of you that looks impossible to cross. Most people freeze. They wait for the waters to part before they move. But that's not how it works. The sea didn't split for Musa and his people until they stepped forward in faith. The miracle met them in motion. Your Pharaoh might be loud, your Red Sea might look endless, but the truth is, the same God who parted waters back then still moves mountains, still breaks chains, still makes a way where there is none. The question is, are you going to stand there staring at the waves, or are you going to raise your staff, take the step, and walk? Because the moment you move, really move, that's when your sea starts to part. And on the other side, freedom. Purpose. Life you were born to live. Step forward. Your Red Sea moment is now.